Hi everyone, my name is Cyan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For this week's video, we are going to be reading my 5-star predictions. Obviously, I'm excited because I think these books are all going to be really amazing and 5-star worthy. Hopefully they are. I don't want to be disappointed, but I have a few. I think I have 4 in mind that I think could potentially be 5 stars. We're hoping. But the first one that we're going to be starting off with this week is actually When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a high fantasy that either goes one way or the other. People tend to absolutely love it or they hate it, which that is kind of the case for most books. But with this one in particular, I have seen so many mixed reviews and I feel like this could either go really good and I also give it 5 stars, or I get super confused and DNF it because a lot of people say that it is confusing. I don't want to be someone who reads something that I can't understand. So if I get confused, I'm going to make myself DNF it if I'm not having a good time. But I have a lot of tools at my disposal. Like there is a glossary in this book. You could always Google it and get other explanations from other people. We also have the audiobook if that would make it easier to understand. I don't know. My thing is that I'm really going to try with this book. I'm going to read it at a slower pace and try to fully understand what is happening. But I am excited because, I'm just in a fantasy mood. And I think this is technically going to be my first ever high fantasy. So we will see how this goes. Good morning everyone. So yesterday I did read a good bit of When the Moon Hatched. I made it to page 198, chapter 27, and so far in this book we are following our main character Rave. Rave is an assassin and she works for basically this rebellion group that is going against the crown. At the same time, she is getting revenge because people who work for the crown killed someone that she cares about. But while she's in the process of getting her revenge and being an assassin, she gets captured. But now where I'm at, she is currently being held in prison, and there is a king. His name is Khan, I believe is how you say it. It's alluding to the fact that he is one of the kings that basically fell off the face of the earth. No one really knows what happened to him. He kind of stays in the shadows, hidden from the rest of the world. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. If any of this is wrong, honestly, don't be surprised because I do get confused a little bit while reading this. But that is what I have gathered so far, and Khan seems to be helping her. We don't really know why. He also, when he sees her, it seems as if he knows her and they have some kind of history, but she doesn't remember him at all. So I am intrigued to see where that goes and why he's interacting with her as if he's known her for a very long time. Besides that being the main plot though, we are also at the end of most chapters getting these diary entries, and they kind of just tell you a little bit more about the world and the dragons that are in this book. And now these diary entries, they do have a name, but I'm confused on who this character is because we haven't been introduced to them yet. Or maybe we have and I just missed it. I'm gonna be so honest with you. If I missed it, my bad on my part, but so far I don't know who these diary entries are from. What is the name though? Elwyn. Elwyn, who are you? Besides that, the magic system in this whole entire world is very complex. From what I saw online, it is a high fantasy, so that makes sense for it to be a little bit more confusing. You are kind of thrown into this world. There's made up words. People's ages are called phases, so there's a lot that can be confusing. I personally saw this TikTok before I went into the book where they explained it very well. I'll try to leave their username right here if you want to read this book and look at how she explains this world, because she did a really great job. And I didn't read the glossary. I just watched that TikTok and then read this, and it was honestly so helpful because after learning about the actual world and everything from that video, I feel like I can understand a lot more than I would have if I would have tried to read the glossary, because let's be real, if I would have read the glossary, right over my head, especially because you are just thrown into this world and you're not really getting that much of an explanation about certain things that are happening, or the breeds of the dragons and stuff like that. You're just kind of seeing them and then you have to deduce your own information from what you are seeing. I hope this is making sense. But it is a complex world. I'm glad that I watched that video because it really has helped me. And so far I'm liking it. I'm not too confused because here's the thing. Whenever someone says that a book is confusing, my brain for some reason immediately is like, oh, that's gonna be written in Shakespearean language. Like it's gonna be, you know, where art thou and stuff like that. But it's not. It's literally written in a language that you can understand. Like most fantasies are formatted. The only thing that's confusing about this one is that, of course, everything's made up. So I'm seeing words like moonbeam dragon, is it Morgan Mall? You know, like what is that? So that is how it gets confusing, but I am enjoying it and I'm intrigued to see where it's going to go. I am gonna keep reading now. A little side note, number one, the place in here is called Gore, which is now my last name. So like, you know, humble brag. But also, the author, I don't know if it's just me, let me know if anyone else has noticed this, but she uses the word a lot. Like, I don't understand why. I have seen that word way too many times to be comfortable. She's always using the word to like degrade men. And I'm just like, okay, like is that the only diss you can think of? Maybe? But that's just a little side note that I noticed while reading it. Let me know if you notice that too or if it's just in my head. I don't know. But let's continue reading. Today, I did finish When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, and I have some thoughts. First off, I will say I understand why people do and don't love this book. There are so many parts that are just overly descriptive, so it does kind of drag on. Another thing is that this is solely based on our characters. When I'm thinking about a plot, there is none. Like what I told you in the beginning about our main character, Rave, being an assassin and everything, you don't really see much of that. You see her kind of going on this journey and figuring out something from her past. As we are figuring it out ourselves, I kind of figured out what the ending was going to be before it even happened through some of the little small point of views that we get throughout the story. So for some people who like a plot-driven, really fast-paced book, this is not going to be it. It mostly focuses on our characters, but I do think it sets up for the second book to potentially be really good. I am excited for the second book. I'm not gonna lie. I think that the plot can just go so much further. Am I excited if it's this thick and full of a bunch of descriptions? Not necessarily. I do think this book could have been done in half the size that it is, if we're being honest here. She definitely does not get to the point, you know? But I still enjoyed my time reading it. I also do think that the romance moved fast at one point, and then when you found out why that happened, you were kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But then it slowed down. You know, it made sense in my head, but it doesn't make sense now that I'm speaking it out loud. But anyways, the romance was a little lackluster in the beginning, honestly, until like the last 25%. The last 25% is where I fully felt invested in this romance between the two characters. Another thing is, in this book, you're not seeing as much of the dragons as I would like to. I actually saw a Goodreads review where someone said that the dragons were just basically Uber drivers, and I fear that that is kind of correct. But I still had a good time. I think I'm going to sit on it and give you guys my rating at the end of the video, see if any of my 5-star predictions are 5-star. But for this one, I will just go ahead and say that I don't think it is a 5-star. It didn't give me those feelings. However, I still want to sit and like think about what I'm going to rate this book because I really genuinely have no clue. There were parts where I was so bored. The ending really did it for me. The beginning was fun and it kind of pulled me in, but just the whole middle was not doing it. And there were little side quests too and other point of views from other characters where I liked to see that, but the action was just lacking in this book. So those are my thoughts on that one. But now we're going to completely switch directions and I'm going to start another book, and I'm going to start The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I read The Nightingale by this author. 5-star, fell in love, absolutely loved her writing and just everything about it. Very emotional, made me cry, but I want to read more from her, so this is the other book that I have by her. I honestly have no idea what it's about. I just saw the back in Alaska, 1974, so we're going to Alaska. Okay guys, so it is actually Sunday now. Yesterday I didn't get to read a lot, but I've been reading for majority of the day, and I have made it 50% of the way through The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is a story about a girl named Lenny and her family. She's a single child, so it's just her father, and her mother, and right now they are living in Seattle. Her father though was in the Vietnam War, and he was actually held as a prisoner of war, so ever since he got back he has just not been the same, and their family has been jumping and moving around from town to town looking for a new start. Her father ends up learning that one of his old war buddies, who was actually a prisoner of war with him, passed away, and that he left him this house and land in Alaska, so he decides to move the whole family there for a fresh start. Her father obviously has some issues because of the war and everything, and he just can't keep a job, so they're basically gonna go there and try to live off the grid. Once they get there, they are now learning like the community and everyone in the town and how to survive. There's a lot of rules that come with living in Alaska in order to keep you and your family safe. So that is what's going on in the story, and we're seeing Lenny as she like grows up. Like, this is years down the line and everything. So where I'm at right now, I believe she's 17 and like about to graduate high school so that she can leave this toxic household. We are seeing her meet someone at a young age, them be childhood friends, and grow up and love one another, and so there is a little bit of that romance in there. But another thing that is heavily talked about in this, which might be a trigger warning for some of you, is domestic violence. So if that's something you don't want to read about, do not pick up this book, because that is the main theme of this story. Another thing that is coming up is that her father is also like preparing for doomsday. He believes that that's going to occur at some time, and he's trying to protect his family, even though he's the one that harms his family the most. But that's besides the point. And while there is a lot going on in this book, it does move at a slower pace because it is very people driven. So like, a lot is happening at the same time, not a lot is happening. But either way, I'm enjoying it. I can tell you so far I'm not enjoying it as much as I did The Nightingale. I don't really know what it is about it. I don't know if it's the setting, because I don't particularly love settings that are just like out in the wilderness. I don't know why, but I've never been someone that likes that type of setting. So I don't know if it's that, or if it's just that I don't connect to these characters that much. However, there is still 50% of the book left, so as we all know, a lot could change. We'll just have to see. I'm gonna keep reading and try to finish this tonight though. Okay everyone, so I did end up finishing up The Great Alone last night. I didn't love it as much as I loved The Nightingale. I think that it is because of the time period. Like in The Nightingale, I thought it was so interesting because it was based around World War II. If you know the history of World War II, which you should, that subject matter is just so interesting to me. I'm smiling even though like World War II is not a happy time, okay? I was not smiling while reading that book or this one, okay? I did shed some tears. I saved you from having to witness me tearing up in my bed last night at like midnight while reading the rest of this. It was sad, but the tragedy in this one did wrap up, so there is like a silver lining and a bit of a happy ending. One of the reasons why I didn't love it as much as The Nightingale is because of the setting of this book. I don't love settings that are in the wilderness and just reading about that. I don't know why. I just don't. Like, for example, when I read All Roads Lead Here, I didn't love that book because they were like going on hikes and in the mountains and stuff, which is weird because I like to do that in real life. I just don't like reading about it. Point is, it was still good. I would recommend. And now we are going to actually start our third book for the video. And originally, I'm not gonna lie, I did not think that this book could potentially be a 5-star just because the reviews that I've seen have not been good. But I recently watched Rachel's video and she actually gave this book a 5-star. So I'm thinking maybe I would be one of the few people that seem to absolutely love this book. So I am going to give it a chance because I do know that I love this author, and that is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I believe that in this book, our main character gets stuck in this town, and as it turns out, it is the town from one of her favorite romance novels. So, I mean, it sounds like an interesting premise. We're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so I have officially made it 50% of the way through a novel love story. In this book, we are following Eileen. Her car breaks down and she is now stranded in a town that is actually from one of her favorite romance books. The author of the book passed away, so the series is pretty much unfinished. And she meets this guy named Anders, who actually is aware that this is a fake town in a book, but he is not a character in the books that anyone has met before. So it seems as if he may just be someone else who happened upon this magical book town. And right from the get-go, him and Eileen kind of have like a rough start. They don't really get along or anything like that. And he tells her, like, don't make any ripples in this world. Don't do anything to alter or change the story that was already written. Leave it alone. But Eileen meddles and gets involved and things start changing. And at the same time, her and Anders kind of start liking each other. That's all I can really say. The thing is with Ashley Poston books, they always have a little bit of magic in them, but you can't harp too much on it because it's never explained in like any sort of way. It is what it is, and it's there, it's happening. Like in The Dead Romantics, our main character can see and speak to the dead, which actually I feel like that's real. I don't know if anyone else thinks that, but I think it's real. I do not see dead people, but I do believe others can. That's besides the point though. The other book, The 7-Year Slip, that one had time travel, and then this one, she's in a magic book world, I guess. But anyways, at the 50% mark, I'm kind of understanding why people don't love it. I am used to Ashley Poston's books starting out a little bit slow for me. They're never one of those books that I just jump in and am immediately in love with. I kind of have to build with them. But this one is still slow at the 50% mark. In the other books that I've read by her, normally around the 50% mark, I'm already in love with them. But this one's just not hitting the same. I honestly don't know why that is. I'm just bored. I also don't feel the romance at all. Even at the 50% mark, they are just now becoming romantically involved, but they literally flipped a switch. Like one minute they don't like each other and then the next minute they're kissing. I just didn't feel the romantic connection build at all. It was just literally one minute they don't like each other, the next they're in love, and I do not like when that happens in a book. So that is most likely why I'm not really obsessed, but I am going to keep reading, and who knows, maybe the end will make up for it, but I don't have high hopes if I'm being honest. I have officially finished a novel love story, and I fear it's not that great. I did love her other books, so maybe this is just like the one flop. I will say after the 50% mark though, it did pick up a bit. I was actually enjoying it now that I knew these characters a little bit better and the town and everything, but I just didn't love the romance, and since it is mostly a romance book, I feel like that's the thing that really ruined it for me, was that I didn't care for the romance. Like I said earlier, at one point they hated each other and then they just randomly flipped a switch and were in love. And at the very end, there's a third act breakup, and I am so sorry, but after that breakup, I would not be taking this man back. I just have to talk about it. So let's do a little spoiler section. Skip to here if you don't want any spoilers. But if you have read this book, Anders literally sees B, is like, oh my god, she reminds me so much of my dead fiance, and decides not to leave with Eileen. Doesn't know B, doesn't really talk to her or anything, just immediately gives her this look, and Eileen is like, oh, you're staying? And they go their separate ways? No, 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 no. If Parker ever did that to me, like literally basically broke up with me because of a girl that he saw, I don't care who she looks like. No. No way. Not happening. Bye. But I understand, okay? It's because of his dead fiance, but still. No. But that's my little rant about that. I didn't love this book. I'm sorry to say it. I don't think it was bad though. So I feel like I need to give it like a 3-star right now, but we will think about it. And at the end, when I do my little wrap up, I'll give you what my final rating is. But that is this one. Now we have our final 5-star prediction to read for the video. And I'm a little nervous, but I think that it's time. I'm going to be reading Red Rising. I do think this could be a 5-star because so many people love these series. Even my husband and my dad and other booktube girlies love this series, so it's very universal, and I want to finally start it. I have never read a sci-fi in my life, So I'm intrigued. We will see how it goes. Hopefully I don't get confused. Also, it's not that long, and I'm hoping I can finish it either today or tomorrow. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so I did just get home from work, but I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a 50% update of Red Rising. In this book, we are following Darrow. He lives in this world. They're on Mars, and he works as like a miner because they're trying to get hydrogen-3 from Mars. And he is also a red. The world is divided by colors, and the very top of the food chain is the golds. He finds out that basically his people are slaves and that everything is not what he thinks, and he is going to be part of this rebellion. In order to do that, he turns himself into a red, goes undercover, and is gonna dismantle the system from the inside out. But what no one's told me is that this book has Hunger Games vibes. Yes, it does, Blue. Are you listening? It's important. You're so cute. This has Hunger Games vibes. No one told me that. Like, I have not heard anyone talk about that, so I did not know that going in. The Hunger Game vibes are because he goes to this school for the golds. They are all competing and like learning, so there's different houses. He's in House Mars, and right now they're like in the woods, basically building their own small communities and fighting against one another and building alliances and stuff. And honestly, I just didn't see that coming. I did not know what to expect in going into this, but so far I'm really liking this. Do I think it's gonna be a 5-star? I don't 100% know right now, but it still has the potential. I did it. I finished Red Rising. I will say, this book, there were parts that do get confusing, but I do feel like that happens with almost every single fantasy or dystopian that you read. But then as you keep reading, you kind of learn more and you can better understand it. So for me, it wasn't an issue. I was worried about me being confused since I believe this is considered a sci-fi book, but it really wasn't that difficult to understand. I think this is such an intricately woven world. There's so many details, and it's just like, how do people come up with these things, you know? But I really enjoyed it. It was a good time. There was a lot of scheming and everything, and I really didn't expect it to take place at like this academy. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It is a great intro book for a series, and I am super excited to read the rest of it. The only thing that did get a little bit confusing though was that there are a lot of characters, and so it was hard to feel super connected to all of them. In books like these, people are gonna die, so when certain characters did die, I didn't feel really that sad because I was kind of like, who was that again? That might just be a personal issue. Anyways, I did really enjoy it, but I am gonna give it a 4-star just because I feel like I didn't get those 5-star feelings necessarily, and because I think the series can only get better, so it's difficult to give the first book a 5-star, and then how do you rate the other books in the series, you know what I mean? And there were parts where I would get kind of bored, and I would just need to set it down because we're in the same setting, and it was starting to feel a little bit slow and repetitive, but still, do recommend. I would give this a 4-star. I think I already said that. But yeah, that is that. Okay, everyone, so it's a few days later. I've had time to sit on my ratings for all of these books, so I thought we would just do a quick little wrap up. First off, I read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, and I'm sitting at like a 3-star for this one. It wasn't bad at all. A 3-star is not a bad rating. I know we hear it all the time, but it really isn't. It was a middle of the road book for me. I found myself bored through like, honestly, a bunch of the middle of it, but towards the end, I did really like it, and I am excited to continue this series once the next one comes out. I think it will be great, but it is very people driven, so if you do not like that, you're not gonna like this book. Next up, we have The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is another book that is very people driven, so if you don't like that, you're not gonna like this story, but I did have a good time reading it. They are historical fiction, so that's another thing to keep in mind if you want to go into these. I liked this one a lot, just not as much as The Nightingale, and I'm gonna sit at like a 4-star for it because it was good. I just did find myself not really connecting to the characters, and as awful as it sounds, I wasn't as sad as I was in The Nightingale. That sounds really terrible, but it's because in The Nightingale, like, I was so connected to the characters that when bad things would happen to them, I literally cried. But in this one, I didn't feel as sad. I teared up a little bit. Another thing to keep in mind is her books might make you cry. Then I read A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I think I'm gonna have to give it a 2 just because it wasn't one of my favorite romances. I think it's very forgettable and underwhelming. It's a story that I'm not really gonna think about very much, and there are just so many other better romances in my opinion, unfortunately, but I still love her writing and I will still continue to purchase anything that she writes. So there's that one. You know, every author can't be perfect, so maybe that was just the one flop. And then we have Red Rising. This is a sci-fi, so I was a little bit nervous going into it, but I'm glad that I read it. I enjoyed it. I'm again excited to continue this series. It is very complex and there's a lot of characters, and I did have a good time while reading it, and this one was a 4-star. It was still really, really good, but I just think that the rest of the series is going to be better. It's an intro book. It can't be perfect, so that is why this one is at a 4 for me. But these are all of the books that I read this week. It actually took me a good bit longer than a week, but anyways, these are all the books that I read in this video. I'm a little sad because they were all 5-star predictions and none of them were a 5-star, but it's okay, it happens. I'm still happy that I read these books. We'll just have to, I don't know, maybe make another video looking for a 5-star read. Who knows? But that is it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions if you have read any of these books, any other recommendations you may have, video ideas you may have. But that is it from me. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!